There it is. We're rolling. All right, cool. Welcome to the Standard Podcast team, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies and misconception that nobody else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. And today I'm Thomas Rowe, and today we're sitting down with Coach Michael Greer and my co-host, Aaron Sarles. Coach Greer is the founder of Athletes Network, a platform dedicated to training athletes to the highest level of their potential and beyond. With decades of coaching experience ranging from youth and high school to junior college, and professional football leagues. Coach Greer has built a reputation as a pioneer in athlete development, recruiting, and scouting. In addition to that, training. Athletes Network works with athletes on every level, from youth football and basketball to undrafted free agents trying to get noticed by the NFL, CFL, and AFL. Coach Greer's mission is simple: help athletes reach the level they desire and then take them to the next level. Whether it's training camps, combines, position-specific drills, or connecting athletes with agents and scouts, Coach Greer is opening doors and building pathways for athletes who refuse to give up on their dreams. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. Coach Greer, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to work with you and speak on whatever topic, because
right on.
People need to know.
Right on. Well, we want to welcome you to the Standard Podcast, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies. Coach Greer, let's start here. You built Athletes Network to train athletes at every level, from youth to undrafted free agents. What does raising the standard mean to you, especially in the work you're doing to develop and elevate these athletes?
Well, it means everything. I mean, there's a lot of, levels that these athletes need to obtain to get to the next level. But, as you're, as what you guys live by it, you have to have integrity, you have to have honesty, you have to have drive, and you just got to be, a person that's well-rounded, not just on the field, but in their life and character and how you want to represent yourself. But most importantly, how you want to represent your family and what you're doing.
Right on. What's the biggest lie or misconception you feel the culture of the sports industry has sold athletes about making it to the next level, getting noticed, and building a career in sports?
I think one of the major lies is that you have to be at a top college or you have to be at a top school to get recognized.
Right.
And you don't. All you have to do is play the sport at your highest level. And if you exceed your highest level, then you'll get noticed. I mean, the thing is, the problem is if they can't find you, they can't sign you.
That's
and,
it.
A lot of times people make you think that you have to go to Ohio State. Who knew about Indiana this year?
No shit.
Ohio State knows about them now, right?
Right. So you work with undrafted free agents, junior college players, and athletes who didn't get the scholarship offer they wanted. How do you see the lie playing out now? And what made you say, I need to build something to give these athletes a real shot and a platform to succeed?
One of the biggest things that, athletes have to understand, whether they're going from Pop Warner to high school or high school to college or college to the pros, you have to get established times and criteria on yourself so you can compete with those that are getting high visibility. High visibility is great for some people, but if they're phony and they're not as good as their stats are, then it kills them. But just on the flip side, if you're better than where you are, then that high visibility helps raise your stock. And that's how I train these guys. I train these guys like, if you want to be at your highest level, then train with me. If you think you're already there, then I'm not the right person for you.
Right. Totally get it. That's awesome. We're going to move over to segment 2, where Aaron's going to take it away. Identity and legacy. Aaron, you're up.
I am up. Okay, here we go. So, Coach Greer, I would love to hear from you. You've coached at every level, youth, high school, college, professional. You've earned championship rings. You've trained athletes who went on to play at the highest level. But beyond Athletes Network and the training, so beyond all of the things, all the accolades, everything that's on the website that anybody can go look at, who is Michael Greer and how does character, integrity, and discipline play into your life?
Character means everything. Effort means everything. I'm a prodigy of Oakland. I'm from Oakland, California. My uncle was Jack Tatum, played for the Raiders. So I'd had some extensive time going to the Raiders practices, as a young kid. I used to play catch with Freddie Biletnikoff Jr. Me and him are great friends now. The biggest thing I took from that is that how to be a professional, and back in the day, it wasn't about all the money. It was about, dedication, legacy, what your team meant to you, what your teammates meant to you, and going up through the process, I came across some great coaches. I played for Pete Carroll. I played for Bob Cole, played for Bob Toledo at University Pacific, so Tom Flores when I was with the Raiders for a short period of time. So those guys instilled into me, finish the job, finish. That's why they're still around and they're still pushing, it's amazing because I just talked with Ronnie Lott recently and we talked about, Coach Ben Parks from Santa Clara area, who was a legend in training athletes. And the biggest thing is don't leave anything on the field. And Ronnie and I talked about the difference between athletes today and yesterday is that the athletes today have no responsibility.
Yep.
And that's huge if you think about it. Their responsibility is to bring up this next class, but they're so self-driven and, I got to get mine, bro. That's not how it is. It's, if there's no history behind you, then where's your future? Because you can't draw on your history. So that's what's so important to me is just instilling in these young kids. I got grandkids that are nationally ranked in basketball and football, and I'm on them every day about being responsible, completing the task, and giving everything you have.
I love that. I think you're absolutely right. There is definitely an opportunity with this generation of thinking beyond themselves, for sure. You have worked with a lot of athletes who've been overlooked, undrafted, or told they're not good enough. And you just talked about legacy. What does legacy beyond sports performance mean to you, especially as someone giving athletes the second chance and the opportunity to build where no one else gave them that opportunity?
Right. And I tell a lot of the older guys that are trying to get into the league and they try 2 or 3 years. And I told them, the training aspect of it is great. It makes you disciplined, but you also have to be intelligent enough to understand, follow your degree. I mean, you went to school for a purpose. Well, they used to. Now it's the NIL. But, if you are in a situation where you're in school, make sure you get your degree so you can pursue another avenue. There are so many avenues out there that the doors are open up for these athletes. And, football or basketball or baseball doesn't have to be the only one. If you don't make it, understand that you're not a failure. Understand that you have to be a finisher, finish what you started. And maybe it's not with the Raiders or the Falcons, or maybe it's in the USFL, maybe it's in arena, or maybe it's in corporate, or maybe it's with Nike. So, you have to really look at, the total picture. And that's why it's so important. The blueprint is so important because you're building an entire person, not just a football player, basketball player, or skier, or whatever you do.
Thank you. Yeah, we are on a mission to make that happen. So with that being said, I would love to know, and I'm sure our audience would love to know, you've seen athletes at all stages, from youth football to the professional leagues. What separates the ones who make it from the ones that don't? And I'm not just talking about talent. So peel back the layers, and I know our audience loves to hear this.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's attention to detail. When you're training, be detailed. the little stuff matters. What are you doing when nobody's watching? That's the big thing. It's an easy situation, but it's a tough road because everybody's trying to get there. As we discussed before, there's 262 guys drafted each year, but there's 20,000 seniors that come out that are draft eligible. So you have to really, look at your training, but you must compare yourself against those that are rated higher than you. Because if you think you're the highest and then, you don't think anybody's higher than you, then I don't think you're going to sign you. Someone else has to feel the same way about you and compare yourself, compete. I tell my grandsons all the time, look at who you admire as an athlete, but don't look at them just on the field. See how they carry themselves off the field. Steph Curry. I mean, wow. I mean, he is a rounded person, makes mistakes, wins games, falls down, gets hurt, gets back up and finishes. And that's the kind of, image that you want to pursue. And when he gets in front of the camera, he's very thoughtful with his answers. He doesn't rush through it. You never hear, yeah, bro, this, you hear, yes, no, it's my team. It's not just me. So the ones that make it pay attention to detail, they work as hard as they can, but they don't forget they still have a life. You still have family. You still have commitments. You still have obligations. And that's the biggest thing. Don't put all your efforts towards just making it, because you have to make it as a person first before you make it as an athlete.
I love that. Yep. We need to make it as a person first. So true. So what's one truth you wish every young athlete and their parents understood what it really takes to compete, get noticed, and build a career in sports?
I think I want them to understand that academics is everything. You must be eligible to play, even if you're in youth football or AAU basketball. Academics has to be in the forefront. You don't have to be a student, but you must adhere to the rules and regulations of the school. Be a good person. Be a God-fearing person if that's the route you want to go. But make sure, be about something. You don't have to be about everything. Just make sure you have some substance as a person, and and follow a path. If you're going down the wrong path, chances of you making are not very good. Or you could be 6'9" and in high school and killing everything, but if you're going down the wrong path, sooner or later you're gonna come to a crossroads where you can go left or you can go right. And if you're not brought up the right way, or even if you just follow the right path, then you can overcome even things in your life and your family and things that they're not doing correct. It doesn't mean that you have to do the same things.
Gotcha. We're going to head into segment 3. If you could sit down, which is advice across all stages, Coach, if you could sit down with a youth athlete just starting out, and I'm so curious to get your take on this because we have our opinion here, maybe somebody who's 12, 13 years old, what advice would you give them about developing their skills and character, and then also their mindset?
Character is big, because you must, to have people respect you, you must have character. You must have, you must have substance. You must have, you got to have that. When they look at you, they don't want to say, oh, that guy's talented, but he's an a-hole.
Right.
You want to look at somebody and go, wow, this kid is killing it on the court. Another kid falls, he went and helped him up. That's character. That's being a well-rounded athlete. I would teach these kids too, when you train with a purpose.
That's it.
Train with an identity. Train with, you have goals, set aside time. Like I said, I know, kids that there's a basketball hoop right across the street from their house. They're there every day for a certain amount of time, and they're working on their skill set. Or a kid has cones and he's just working on his back pedal. A lineman, he's working on his skill set, every day, give it some work, because you know what? When you get to a game or get to practice, it's repetitive. I've already done it. I've done the work. I used to tell the kids, we practice so hard during the week. The game is just something we have to do.
Right.
That's the fun part. So, your work ethic, how you approach other people, how you approach your game plan, how other people perceive you. All those things are important, and your perception in the big picture is what matters, because they can judge you as just an athlete or a good person.
No doubt. What about high school athletes who are trying to get recruited? What do they need to understand about getting noticed, building relationships with scouts, and preparing for the next level?
I think it's a large, company like, Blueprint will really help bridge that gap. There's so many companies out there that are parents, and they'll pay $5,000 or $6,000 to put their kid's name on a list.
Right.
That's not, that there's no guarantee there. But if your athlete works hard and you get with a company like ours, like Blueprint, where, we really send film, we really send information to the schools and really talk to people and say, what do you think? It's so funny. A lot of scouts never ask the coach, what do you think? They just, hey, coach, I got this guy. Or, hey, coach, I'll ask him, coach, what do you think about this kid? Will he fit your program? Will he fit University of Miami? Will he fit, Jackson State? Will he fit? And the coach will tell you, nah, he's not a good fit. I coached college football. I was that recruiting guy to go there, and they come at me with certain athletes and I give them an honest opinion.
Right.
So it's very important that, number one, when a parent and a child is sitting there looking at schools, look at, number one, do I fit this system? Are there 25 defensive backs and I'm trying to come in and be 26? Do I want to travel this far? Will I feel good in South Dakota if I'm from LA?
Right.
What is the program like? Is it a big program, small program? Do I really want to be around, 120,000 fans, or is 9 or 10,000 okay for me?
Right.
And am I academically strong enough to maintain my curriculum as far as the sport as well as academics?
No doubt.
Those are the things that you have to look at. And then the parent has to look at, if my kid goes to Arkansas and I live in Minnesota, how often will I get to see him?
Right.
So parents understand that what you say matters also, but don't make that, don't tell them you're going to live in a dorm with them, because they may go further away. So.
Yep. It's so true. We've had a conversation before that, like Alabama with Nick Saban, he didn't recruit, he just reloaded. So when we would talk to kids, we'd say, do you want to watch the game or do you want to change the game? You might be, an All-American coming out of high school, but if you choose to go to Notre Dame or Alabama, you're going to sit for a while. Do you want to do that, or do you want to go to a school where you could step in and make a difference? You touched on it earlier, or just in your last comment about parents. That is a huge, huge obstacle for coaches and recruiters. When you work with parents, how do you incorporate them into the process? What do parents need to know about supporting their athlete's journey without suffocating them or living vicariously through them?
Right. That's a great question. What you do with the parents is, I have a little conversation with them and tell them, hey, look, your child is getting recruited by several different schools. What you have to do is be humble enough to step back and look at the schools, do your own homework, look at the schools, look at how many players they have per that child's position, look at the academics, then look at how far it is away from where you live now, and let your child look at the school. So both of you do your homework, and don't push your feelings on the kid, because now that's pressure. It's pressure enough that somebody from, University of Iowa was coming to your house to talk to your child, and he got 5 other schools talking to them also. That's pressure. But if you're pushing them, going, well, I sure do like Alabama, I sure do like BYU, then the kid is going, God, this is what my parent wants, but what do I want? So you have to give them that freedom, and then once he narrows it down or she narrows it down, then you come together on, okay, as a family, Now let's talk about the 3 instead of the 12.
Right.
So and then when you narrow it down, it has to be their decision, because that's why they're going to go on recruiting trips, and parents can go on recruiting trips with them.
Right.
So just try to. It's hard because I'm a parent. It's hard to step back and not be a parent and be judgmental. Just be supportive.
Sure.
Supportive of what they decide.
Okay, before I turn it over to Aaron for segment 4, I want to get your take on, the days of Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson, Jim Thorpe, 2 sport athletes. I mean, even Travis Hunter was an anomaly. What is your thought, or what is your opinion about athletes coming up? I mean, I'm a big supporter for them to play 2 or 3 sports, but at what point do you think they need to narrow down their skill set, their passion, and focus on one sport when they aim for the next level, whether that's D1, D2?
Well, okay, if they're in high school, do it all. Do as much as you can, as long as you're playing at a high level.
Right.
As long as you're playing at a high level. If you're just hemming and hawing and trying to get more trophies and trying to get this in high school and get that, then you want to narrow it down, because you don't want a college to look at it and like, oh, he's conflicted, he's non-committal. But if you're doing both at a high level, and that college looks at you and says, hey, we really like what you're doing, you got to make a decision, because nobody plays both sports in college. There's been a couple, but it hasn't lasted that long.
Right.
If you're a 2-position player, then ride that horse. If they say they can use you in both positions, then understand your value. If
Right.
a school goes after you because you're a 2-position player, then you have that value.
Sure.
So, always go where your value is the highest, because you become very, you be selective, and you become somebody that they need, right now.
Right. We're going to turn it over to Aaron here for segment 4, which is the rapid fire round. Aaron, take it away.
Awesome. Okay, so this is where I'm going to start a sentence and you're just going to finish my sentence. Okay, Michael? So discipline equals.
Success.
Leadership equals.
Leadership equals. Wow, that's great. I think leadership equals direction.
I love it. Faith equals.
Faith is everything. If you don't have faith, then you have nothing.
Legacy equals.
Legacy is built and driven, and it's brick by brick.
I love it. And what's one thing you would never compromise on?
Honesty, integrity, loyalty.
I love it. And if you could put one message on a billboard for the next generation of athletes, what would it be?
Finish what you start, be committed to what you do, and always, always be faithful.
I love it. Okay, Thomas, you're back up.
Right on, Coach. All right, we're going to get into the closing segments here. I just have 2 questions for you. Before we wrap up, Coach, is there something we didn't touch on today that you feel athletes, parents, or coaches need to hear about developing talent, getting noticed, or building a career in sports?
It's funny because, and I draw back on my kids, like my sons played pro ball, and, I have a daughter that played at a high level. She turned down Stanford and Harvard in basketball to go to West Point. She graduated from West Point, and she flies Blackhawks now, so go figure that out. So I think the thing is that AAU and all these youth sports are outstanding, but don't just get on a pay per play type of organization where you get on, I pay $5,000, I expect my kid to play.
Right.
Continue to train them. Continue to train with them. My son, I have 2 granddaughters that are monsters in soccer. But my son, he coaches indoor soccer. He coaches them a little bit. But he was smart enough in AAU to step back at a high program and let them be coached. Find a great program and let your kids be coached. My 2 grandsons, like I said, they play for Fieldhouse, which is owned by Steph Curry.
Right.
And they started off with the Warriors AAU program, and they excelled up to Curry's program, and they're doing some phenomenal things. The thing is, make sure if you are serious about your child's development and growth, get with the necessary people, do your research, find out who's training the top athletes, or train them yourself like I did. The thing is, and I always say this, good input, great output.
Right.
Bad input, bad product.
Sure.
So you have to be smart enough to understand as a parent where, I'm going to put my kid in the right situation to be successful. That doesn't mean you pay the money, they're going to get the success. Because then ultimately it comes down to the training and the adaptability of your kid on whether they're getting the information that they should from this coach and receiving it.
Final question, the hot seat. What are your top 3 sports movies of all time?
Wow. Top 3 sports movies. That's crazy. Brian's song.
Okay.
Come on, man. Number 1. Jeez. North Dallas 40. Come on, man. That was a good one.
You're going old school. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Got to. There haven't been really any. I like the Rock series, but that was a series. That was pretty funny. I guess the last one would be Longest Yard.
There you go. All right. Awesome, Coach. Where can people connect with you and they want to learn about Athletes Network, whether that's social media, email, or on LinkedIn?
I'm an old school guy, so my website is athletesnetwork1.com, and I think I'm on Facebook. I'm under Athletes Network and under Michael Greer, Coach Greer. But my thing is, I tell guys, if you're not really ready to do the work, then don't contact me, because I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've told athletes that want to train with me, hey, go pursue your degree because you're not very good. You're not at the level that you want to be at, and I'm not a magician. I can't make you better than what you are. Once we've trained and I've seen your max. So and you have to understand, and parents, please understand this. Whatever service you go to, especially somebody like Blueprint or whoever, whatever you have to compensate, whatever you have to pay, it's an investment into your child's future.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's an investment. I told a guy the other day, $300 may be an investment. If you could turn it over to $3 million, isn't that a good investment?
No shit. Yeah.
There you go.
Better watch the swear words. Aaron, the editor, is not going to like that too much. But hey, team, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, when we first met Coach Greer a couple months back, we were both kind of doing this little dance. And now that we've really gotten to understand, Coach has a simple philosophy. I'm not going to speak for him. And that is kind of, we share the same philosophy. And that is, we want it for you, but we can't want it for you. You're going to have to do the work. It's as simple as that. So when Coach says don't waste his time, he means it. And he's been around long enough to know that if you're bullshitting him, he's going to call you on it and he's going to move on. So Coach Greer, thank you for sharing your story and your truth. We really appreciate it. If this conversation challenged you, inspired you, and made you think differently, share it. Send it to an athlete who needs a pathway, a parent who's trying to support their kid's dream, or even a coach who's building opportunities for overlooked talent. This is the Standard Podcast. This is a movement. It only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Let's raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and become the standard. And if you're looking to take our 3-day reset where there's no exchange of money, it's just kind of a vetting process for you and for us. It's a win-play show. It's a 3-day program with us. You can find that at blueprintbluechip.com. We'll see you next time. Coach Greer, Aaron, thanks so much, you guys, for joining us.
Appreciate it. Take care. Thank you.